Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. This is our fourth workshop of our Activism in Action series. I'm Elizabeth, she, her pronouns, and Saida has been helping me plan these. We're so happy to have Lizzie Rootberg here tonight. She's an organizer I met this summer when I was actually working on a campaign with her, and I learned a lot about organizing with her. So I'm very excited, and I'll let her take it away.
Hi. Hi everyone. My name's Lizzie. Yeah, I am really excited to be here tonight. I've been organizing professionally since summer 2018, where I got my first job on the Yes on 3 campaign for transgender equality. I've been bumping around Massachusetts politics ever since, and spent last year working with Lizzie on the campaign to reelect our boy Senator Ed Markey. So really excited to bring what I've learned from organizing into the space, and I hope that you find it fun and interesting. So yeah, tonight's agenda, I'm going to introduce like a case study that I'm going to be using throughout this presentation, which is the Massachusetts 2018 Yes on 3 campaign for transgender equality, where I got my start and learned how to organize. We're going to talk about the personal story a little bit and how important that is to this work. We're going to talk about relational organizing, why we do it, how to do it, having one-on-one meetings with your friends, and then a little bit over about like phone banking, canvassing conversations. And we're going to end having you practice the hard ask. So yeah, introducing the Yes on 3 campaign. This to me is kind of the gold standard of field organizing. It was really incredible. This is where I learned how to organize and where I came up. So the issue of this was a statewide ballot question, like right to repair or ranked choice was last cycle. The issue was whether to uphold or to repeal a 2016 law granting transgender, non-binary, gender non-conforming people legal protections against harassment and discrimination in public spaces, which includes, public restrooms, but also libraries, public transportation, grocery stores, hospitals, like everything pretty much. So I joined this campaign in fall 2017. I got street canvassed in Davis Square. Someone was like, hey, your human rights are going to be up for a statewide vote in 14 months. I was like, oh shit, I better do something about that one. And the field strategy of this campaign was rooted in deep canvassing. What this is having long, meaningful conversations with voters where we dig into their values, their experiences, their feelings around trans people, build a real relationship, empathy with everyone we talk to, and use that empathy to try to move people towards a more accepting position of trans people. The reason we decided to do it this way with that deep canvassing is we looked at the HERO initiative in Houston, Texas. This was a citywide ballot campaign about protections in public spaces for people of all kinds of minority groups, and not just transgender people. And that issue had been polling at around 60%. And then the opposition managed to boil it down to like, this will put like trans women or men and they're going to go in women's bathrooms and attack your kids. And then support for the issue plunged 20 points in 2 weeks, and then we lost. So we needed to inoculate enough voters against this messaging by having deep canvassing conversations with them where we would actively introduce this messaging in the conversation and ask them how they felt about it, how they reacted, and then work through those complicated feelings. We needed to have enough of these conversations and inoculate enough voters to create a buffer against the effect of that negative advertising, which inevitably would be used here as well. We needed to have 100,000 deep canvassing conversations with voters in the like persuadable middle of Massachusetts voter bloc. And we did it. So that's the campaign that I'm going to be talking about throughout the rest of this presentation. So yeah, to start with why we organize. The thing that undergirds all effective organizing, the thing that you need to do to be an effective organizer is to know yourself and to know why you're doing what you're doing. Like, what does this issue or this candidate mean to you? And what is it going to mean to the people around you that you're going to be asking for help? Organizing, is about asking people to join your cause, take an action with you. And people take actions because they want to, because they feel that it's in their like enlightened self-interest to do that. So it's up to you to build an emotional connection with someone and use that connection to make them feel like they want to join you. And to do that, you have to know why you're in it yourself, right? And you need to be able to communicate why you're in this fight. And you can do that with your own personal story. So a story that I like to tell about Yes on 3 is the reason that campaign felt so important to me, besides the fact that I'm a trans woman myself, is I think about a friend of mine from high school who's trans. She still goes by her birth name because she's closeted, but she once told me that if she had a choice, she would go by Lindsay. So Lindsay told me just before we all graduated that she was trans, and she was really scared about that because her family didn't accept her. This is like Central Massachusetts, 2015. So it's like a pretty hostile social context for trans people. We got pretty close in those last couple of weeks before graduating. And at one point at some like grad party, she was opening up to us and telling us that like she was having a hard time like literally making it from one day to the next because she had to stay in the closet. And so what this campaign was about was making Massachusetts a place where she could feel safe, being herself and living the way that she needed to live. And if we won, it would bring her like one step closer to being able to do that. And if we lost, she would go her whole life knowing that her state doesn't want her to be safe in public. And that's why I did all the things that I did on that campaign. And I heard countless similar stories from volunteers who were trans themselves, or their partner was, or their child, or their best friend, And we were able to build powerful working relationships with each other around our shared love for the trans people in our lives. And that, I'm not to be corny, but like that love is literally what powered our field team to do all of the insanely difficult things that we did. So anyone else here who can tell a story about like a specific point or event in your life which made you want to start organizing or which drew you to this work? Like any specific, like a specific thing that happened to you or someone you love that makes you want to do this and like throw down for justice?
I can share a quick little personal story. So in my local town, there's a school committee race coming up, and I'm not really involved in local politics or any of that, but someone I know who's a pretty progressive candidate who really supports, safe reopening for schools in my town has this whole thing about we have a logo that's really outdated and really offensive. It's an Indian head. It's just really racist and it's not appropriate to have as a school mascot. And there's this whole townwide debate, and there's a string of candidates running against him, trying to remove or trying to keep this head while he's trying to remove it. And it's not that of a personal thing, but for me, it's like, this is the town I grew up in. This is the school I went to. I really care about it, and I want it to be a strong foot forward, and I want it to be, a good, welcoming town, and not to have these values that don't match what the people think. So I really didn't want to join this campaign, but I kind of felt morally pulled to do it, in that I need to stick up and join this campaign and help him win so that we can move my town forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's your home, right? And you don't want your home to be like a shitty racist place to people. And that's important. And it's important on a personal level. And that's kind of how that self-interest works. Anyone else have a quick story?
I could share one too. I think just a little bit of background that I'm also I'm an immigrant, I'm a POC person, and I always kind of thought I didn't really experience racism, or it was so slight that I didn't want to admit it. But when I was doing my college interviews with Stanford and Yale, and some of the comments I got from those, you're not like other Asians, or the the Asians that I've talked to before are quite different from, you have a personality, and it was backhanded compliments, so yeah, that summer before freshman year of college, I ended up running a workshop to teach young girls about the type of racism that they could experience, and how to deal with it, and what different sectors they could experience it in, because I think I hid it from myself for so long that I was other people should realize that this is very common and it's okay to let it out.
Yeah. And that's sort of a way that you were able to help other younger people protect themselves. That's really cool. So yeah, in organizing your story and sharing, that things that can be honestly personal and vulnerable, is one of your greatest tools as you talk to voters and would-be volunteers on a campaign. So encourage y'all to think about, what are those events for you? What are the things in your head, heart, and gut which drive you to do this kind of work? and how to communicate that. So now a little bit about relational organizing. Starting with people you know is the best way to organize. This is a pillar of what made our field program on the Markey campaign so strong. It was our most effective recruitment tactic during Yes on 3, and especially in non-electoral forms of organizing, this is really central. So what do you think are some of the advantages of starting by reaching out to people that you know?
I think one thing, you're just really comfortable with them, so you talk to them about anything. Why not talk about an issue that you really care about with them?
Yeah. It's a way to expand, to deepen your relationship with them. They're people you care about, who care about you. People who probably have the same values as you, hopefully. And so people who are already kind of predisposed to care about the same kinds of issues that you care about. Anything else come to mind?
I mean, they're more likely to listen to what you have to say than just some random person on the street.
Yeah, 100%. They trust you. And also, if you spent 2 hours like calling your friends versus 2 hours calling strangers, your friends are way more likely to actually pick up the phone and even talk to you to begin with. So it's more conversations, it's better conversations, and a lot more like organizing potential. During Yes on 3, I relational organized my hometown of Holliston in Central Mass for the campaign. I brought together my mom, who is the mother of a trans person, so that's why she cared about this. And another like band mom named Leslie, who also is the mom of a trans kid, our band teacher Sean, who's a trans man himself, and Lisa, our sort of local Democratic Town Committee champion, got together, just shared our feelings and frustrations and fears for a little while, and then made a plan to act and stuck to it. They hosted weekly phone banks for probably like at least 6 or 7, and then collected postcards and had a big visual presence at our fall like annual like Celebrate Holliston parade / booth thing in the park. And it got us a lot of identified supporters, and it showed that like visible presence of Holliston is for Yes on 3. And then we won Holliston by a significantly larger margin than we did statewide. And they did that because I knew them and I was able to just call them up and be like, hey mom, hey Leslie, hey Sean. And it was great. So just to stick with the theme of like trans rights campaign, who in your life can you think of who would want to be part of the campaign for trans rights? Like if you were an organizer for Yes on 3, who in your life would you think of to reach out to?
I would reach out to like my work team, most likely, because like I work in an organization that's like filled with, a lot of of people from the LGBTQ plus community, and they're all working in activism and like organizing. So like I know they would do something if, or at least help me find people who could help.
Yeah, that sounds like a great crew. Anyone else, just like a specific individual in your life that you would want to reach out to if you were on this kind of campaign?
I have a friend who's non-binary, so they would really feel passionate about this issue, and I know they really care about it. So I would definitely recruit them.
Yeah. Also, yeah, another like real good choice. So you've got your list of people in your life that you would want to recruit for this. You think about, do they have the ability to help out? Do they have the belief in your same sets of values? And do you have their contact info? And then once you have your list, you reach out to them and you ask them for help. This could look like a few things. It could look like you might ask for their vote. You might ask them to take on a volunteer shift with the campaign. Or you might want to plan something more in depth with them. If you wanted to get like, you know, a Suffolk 3S-on-3 team off the ground, for instance. And if you have something more in depth in mind, you'll want to have a one-on-one with them. It's in the title of the slide. A one-on-one is one of the fundamental tools of all kinds of organizing, not just electoral campaigns, labor campaigns, tenant union, whatever you're putting together, you're probably having one-on-ones. What this is two people make a specific time to intentionally sit down together, talk about a campaign. You build an emotional connection around a specific issue. Once that connection is made, you make a plan, you make commitments to each other to do something about this thing you care about. And then you commit to following up with each other to make sure it happens. More on how this goes right now. So yeah, this diagram is a sort of a map of roughly how a one-on-one goes. They typically last around 40 to 60 minutes. I like long one-on-ones. I like to take my time with them and like really vibe with the person. You reach out to them like, hey, I'm on this campaign. I want your, I would really love your help with it. Can we find a time to sit down together and talk about it? You get there, you sit down. The first 50% or so, roughly, you spend getting to know them better. Like, why do they care about this? What experiences have they had in life that like has fed into that feeling for them? What kind of organizing have they done before? What are their expectations? What are their, hopes, doubts, questions, and like their personal story behind what makes this, something they want to do. This is also a place where you want to be vulnerable yourself. What's your story? What feelings are driving you to do this? And then after you've shared a little bit with each other, the rest of the conversation goes by way easier. So don't skip this. Um,
Can I ask a question, Lizzie?
sure.
So one-on-ones, some people might say they're very time intensive. They're very, there's a lot that you have to invest. What's the advantage to doing a one-on-one if the trick is to try to get as many people voting for whatever it is you're trying to get them to vote for? This seems like kind of a more drawn out, I'm being a little provocative in the way that I'm asking the question, but this seems a little bit more of a drawn out process. So what's the advantage? What do we gain by doing one-on-one?
Great question. You could get an organizing partner. Yeah, say it's February, elections in November. You're putting together a Suffolk for Yes on 3 organization. If you do it by yourself, if you try to do it by yourself, you're gonna burn out in like 3 weeks and not get anywhere. So you need someone, like you need comrades. And it's hard to have a relationship with someone where you can trust each other, and rely on each other and be accountable to each other without doing this kind of intensive, intentional relationship building. So yeah, if you like just needed to get someone to vote for something, you might not want to have a one-on-one with them. But if you are working on a project that feels bigger than you can handle, and you need friends to help you with it, this is what you do. Great question.
Awesome, thanks.
So the like 30 to 45 minute mark are sort of roughly like the campaign overview. Like what's going on, what's the context of the campaign, what's the field plan, what's the strategy so far, what's the goals, what's the challenges, what is the like specific thing that you need help with. And then the last 15 minutes, you're making a plan for action. This is where you lean on that connection you've established to make commitments to each other, to do something, to take action, and make a specific plan to follow up with each other afterwards. Whether that's like, let's check in again, same time next week, or something like that. There's definitely more to it, but that's like, this is the short version of how one-on-one goes. So all of that was a little more like, I don't know, abstract, conceptual, more high level thinking. Here's something more straightforward. This is the phone banking, the canvassing, the voter outreach, whatever conversation. Campaigns are, you win a campaign by having a shit ton of these. No matter what kind of campaign you're on, you are reaching out to people and asking them for something. And you want to know what you're going to ask them for before you call them or knock their door or whatever. So what are some things that a campaign needs that you might be asking for when you reach out to random voters or friends?
Volunteers.
Yes, campaigns need volunteer shifts. You might be asking for volunteer shifts. What are some other things campaigns need?
I would say like maybe social media support, which is a little easier to gain.
Mhm. That's something you might find yourself asking for as well. What else do campaigns need? Something in the chat. Money. Campaigns need money. They need lots of money. And what's something else that they need? Something else that campaigns need. They need votes. Yeah, so volunteer shifts, money, and votes are probably like the big three things you will probably be asking people for when you call them. I've done like a little bit of asking for money. I've done a lot more asking for votes and volunteer shifts. So yeah, during Yes on 3, we had this deep canvassing conversation, right? Where the ask is a little less straightforward. The ask is to like dig into your own, will you dig into your own feelings and do like the emotional work that you need to do in order to support trans people enough to vote yes on question 3, if that makes sense. And then we would also call people and ask them for volunteer shifts over and over again. No matter what you're asking for, though, the basic conversation or like emotional arc or logic of the conversation is the same. You want to build an emotional connection with the person you're talking to around the issue you're working around, with curiosity, with vulnerability. You apply urgency to the situation. Why do you need their help? And then you make a hard ask, which we're going to get into a little very shortly. But first, yeah, why do we want to be curious with people? Why do we want to be curious and vulnerable when we ask someone for help?
To connect with them, because I think if you like kind of like without kind of having your story out there, they might not even want to listen to you or understand like where you're coming from or why it's important they do listen or act on this thing.
Yeah, you wanna open up space for them to share about themselves. I've definitely heard a lot of like powerful, surprising stories when I ask people why during Yes on 3, and definitely connected with people by telling them what was in it for me. And then for the urgency, what are some things that you could do to like ramp up the urgency in a call and make someone really feel like they needed to do the thing that you're going to ask them to do? In the chat, Mark says, tell them a story. Absolutely. Lizzie, did you have something too?
I was going to say, like, put a deadline on it, make it time sensitive, that it needs to happen within this much time so they feel pressure to actually do it.
Absolutely. And elections are great for that. You can be like, hey, elections in 6 days. When can you phone bank? Citing, polls that are that suggest that you're, tied or in a tight race. Even if you have to like massage the truth like a little tiny bit. On Yes on 3, it would be Yes on 3, it would be like our opponents are going to put out this messaging and our support's really going to drop unless we have enough of these conversations can you have these conversations with us? Or like, it's in 2 weeks, can you join us? Move them from like, I care about this issue to I want to take a specific action. And then we're going to talk about the qualities of hard ask right now. A hard ask is specific. It is uncompromising, unapologetic. It is tied to someone's core values and motivations. So we're going to start, we're going to dig a little more into the hard ask, and we're going to start with an example of a very weak ask. Here is an example of a very weak ask.
Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe.
So, hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe. From the iconic song Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen. What makes that such a weak ask?
For starters, it says call me maybe. It's not like a definite like, no, you're gonna call me. It's a, oh well, maybe.
Right. It's like, call me maybe? It's like, that's weak as hell. Yeah, it's not assertive enough. Anything else you can
It also starts off with all of this stuff about, oh, this is totally crazy for me to ask you. And saying that makes it sound like it's good to say no to it.
Right, like she's literally giving out excuses and reasons to say no, like not even making a person come up with their own excuses. And then also she puts like the impetus on the other person to follow up. It's not like, can I count on you to come to this shift? And like, I'll send you all the information you need to know. It's like, here's my number if you want to call me. And when you put like the impetus on the other person to like have to actively follow up like that, they're much less likely to do the thing. So a good hard ask is kind of the opposite of that. It's specific. It sounds roughly like, can I count on you to come to our public education phone bank at the Old South Church on Monday, June 18th at 6:00 p.m. What made that better?
You gave a date and a time.
And a location. Easy to forget locations because we've been organizing largely without them, but locations are important too. What else?
You ask them like a straight up yes or no question so they can know the exact answer.
Yeah. It's not like you think you might be interested, or like, if you have time, do you think you might, or would you maybe want to? It's like, are you going to be there or are you not going to be there? And what did you notice me do with my voice?
It was very assertive. It wasn't like the kind of high-pitched maybe, will you come?
Yeah, and the specific like vocal trick you can use to make your ask stronger is to end on a down tone. You know, to compare like, can I count on you to come to our voter contact phone bank at the Old South Church on Monday, June 18th at 6:00 p.m. versus, can I count on you to come to our voter contact phone bank at the Old South Church on Monday, June 18th at 6:00 p.m. And that little vocal trick will make you sound a lot more authoritative, even if you don't actually feel authoritative. And then After you ask them, it's the golden silence. You don't say anything. You put all the impetus on them to make the decision around what their boundaries are and what they feel like they can do. Anything you say after that ask will just weaken your ask. All right. I'm about to shift into a section where we make you rehearse stuff. But first, before I do, any questions about any of this stuff so far? Awesome. I must be a good presenter. All right, so now you try. It's time for an activity. We're gonna split you randomly into breakout rooms of 2. Not quite yet, but on my word. And you are gonna practice hard asking each other for a volunteer shift. I'm gonna put the exact information for and language of what you're gonna ask people for in the chat. Cool, yeah. Just take a few minutes to debrief how that went. What was it like getting yourself to use that strong ask language and all that inflection? What was it like trying to make yourself do that?
For me, I think I'm not someone that loves loves inconveniencing people. So that's something that I definitely had to learn, especially the past year. So James and I were definitely talking about that and how uncomfortable it feels to you say something like that and ask something like that of someone, knowing that they have other things going on. But I think we got there at the end.
Awesome. Yeah, the hard ask is very outside of our natural way of how we were socialized to be. And it takes a lot of unpacking to get to a point where we're able to do it. So I'm glad you were able to think that through together. Anyone else have something they want to share?
I'll share. One of the things I was linked up with Mark, and we actually never got to the hard ask because we were kind of on the connecting phase. 10 minutes is a short period of time, of course, and I know this is a workshop to practice, but it kind of occurred to me how much easier the hard ask would probably be if we had a strong, more rapport that was built up over some time. Even though we didn't get to the hard ask, I think that this experience kind of highlighted for me how important that connection piece is, and not to jump too fast to the hard ask, right?
Yeah, 10,000%. Having that, even if it's just a couple sentences from each side, having the chance to build even a little bit of relationship with the other person makes it feel so much easier to hard ask them to do stuff. Any time for one last share, and then we probably gotta go.
It was good to practice because I know I've phone banked before and you get very nervous when you're asking someone and then your immediate gut reaction is to be oh, well, it's fine if you don't. So actually taking the time to walk through it and be all right, if this was real, this is how I would do it. This is how I would, kind of stick to my gun and be can you come? And really like work on being like that assertiveness, because I think when you're thrown really into it, you're a lot more nervous and you tend to be a lot more timid.
Yeah, yeah. And it helps to just like literally just drill it over and over again. Cool, yeah, so that's what I got. That's the presentation. Hope you liked it. It is now 8 p.m., so if you gotta go, we won't be keeping you anymore.
Thank you so much, Lizzie, for coming and leading with us. We really appreciate it. Again, thank you for everyone who came. So we have, I think, left James and Mark, so we will be in touch about a gift card to see who will win that. So thank you so much for joining us. And then 2 weeks from now, we have our 5th event on March 31st at 7. It's all about how to contact your local officials. So we hope you guys can join us for that one. So thank you again, and everyone have a great night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.